this feeling I can't leave. I'm working and I'm dreaming. Will you dare to give it all up and walk by my side? Do you see the road? Do you hear its call? Do you want a part of it? Just getting me above now.
Hello, I'm Jason Bainbridge, your host, and you're on State of the Nation. And tonight we are back with another energy report. I am here again with the duo of the hour for Operation Good Oil, Mr. Levi Wolf and Daniel Urich. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Evening, Jason.
How you been? You guys have had a busy weekend, I should say, last weekend, causing all sorts of ruckus in New Zealand and making New Zealanders proud, by the way.
It was a lot of fun, connecting in with people and travelling, down the motorway together and causing a bit of trouble, a bit of consternation, and upsetting a few people along the way. And,
A little bit of congestion goes a long way, don't you think, Levi?
Well, yeah, and I mean it's really is a sad indictment on our society and on the mentality of the people as a whole, because they get so impatient and they can get not everybody. I mean, we had a lot of toots and waves, and we did we had a lot of people support, but we do get a few people that are a little bit annoyed at being inconvenienced for half an hour out of their life when the people who we are protesting against have spent the last 2 or 3 generations to get us to this point. If only we had their patience, right?
Yeah, exactly. If only we had to walk to school with no shoes on in the freezing rain and the snow.
And use fresh cow dung to keep our feet warm, right?
Yeah, that's right. A couple of interesting things from this weekend that I noticed from my point of view, being this weekend I was a civilian and observer because I was extremely busy for my job, but I was able to see some very critical events take place. I think that you successfully parted the Red Sea out there on that corner. Was that the Simon Street off-ramp in Auckland? Levi?
No, it was one before that, Newmarket. So I'm not sure what that is. Kaiba Pass, is it?
Kaiba Pass. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to run a little video of it while we're talking about, and I didn't quite notice what was going on. When I saw the video, I saw the crowd, and then I saw the cars lining up, and it took me a while to put 2 and 2 together. That it was epic timing, absolutely epic timing. How you come around that corner, they're finishing the haka, and you're parked up there man, it was amazing, right? I'm even getting chills down my spine just thinking about it now. People in the mainstream media are going to think that was coordinated. Was that heavily coordinated, or was it by sheer chance, or was it divine intervention?
Well, I think there was a whole lot of all three thrown in the mix there. We didn't know any sooner than anybody else that they were going to march on the motorway, and we had absolutely no idea where they were going to march. We actually thought they were going to be marching in the opposite direction. So, complete and utter coincidence, really.
And Daniel Urich, you had a few choice words to share with one of the custodians of the law here. You didn't eventually get arrested, so how did you convince the cop just to let you go?
well, actually, the issue was mostly of my own creation because I didn't want to provide him with the information that he claimed that I was required to provide him. Sort of was like, well, I'll arrest you then. I'll have to arrest you. It's just a red ticket for going through a red light. Just give me your details and give me this. And it's just,
Play the rule. For people that are not familiar too much with how to deal with a policeman in common law, what would be the normal way to approach something like this?
Well, generally, you're wanting to avoid getting into joinder, which is essentially giving consent to, accepting responsibility or, acknowledging guilt, for the action, that they're finding you for. So in this case, sort of I'm kind of bouncing between several different common law philosophies, and ways to approach. So, the first thing is, I do not consent. I do not wish to contract with you. One could also take the approach to, I didn't in this case, to try and trap them into being a constable, because a constable, is, technically under the legislation unable to actually issue, act as a corporate enforcer or a policy enforcement officer. They can only act in the bounds of common law. It was an interesting thing. I managed to keep the officer sort of busy and getting frustrated, but I think sort of the sort of growing crowd that sort of coming around and with their cameras, trying to record what was the interaction, trying to understand what was going on. Because this obviously looked a little bit more less than routine. And people didn't know that it was just about the red light. So it was really interesting to watch, to sort of engage. It's the first time I've had to engage with a officer in that type of situation in a very, very long time. I think sort of the last time I had anything like that for a traffic stop or anything is probably 10 to 15 years ago.
Yeah, likewise. I drove my friends down from Auckland to Waihope Spy Base to do a mini doco for my friend's project, and that was the last time. And we got, I drove most of the way, so we got 3 traffic. We got one pullover and 2 camera tickets. So we got 3 tickets all the way down in one night. That's the law of the land. So this weekend we're looking at the Nord Stream being reopened. It looks like temperatures between Russia and the rest of Europe are thawing out. Ukraine and Russia have made a joint agreement to start exporting their grain again. So it looks like the fuel crisis may be getting a temporary reprieve, I guess, at the moment on other fronts like that. So Europeans starting to sort themselves out, and I think it's got a lot to do with all the actions that are taking place in Europe with all the farmers and so on, although they're unrelated but related, obviously. What are your guys' take on what's been going down at the moment? Let's start with Levi.
Yeah, well, I can't really sort of see any pressure coming off us here, other than people might start to wakey a little bit when they continue to push, it's expensive because of X, Y, and Z. People might go, well, hang on a minute, it's not starting to make sense. We are still heavily reliant on imported fuels, and Ukraine never really had much to do with it, other than the fact that there was a refining crisis. How much Ukraine actually had to do with that, I don't know, but we've got a shipping crisis as well. We've got the country's 2 largest transport unions, including the Maritime Union, pushing for Marsden to reopen. I can't see it having any effect on us, to be honest. We're going to need to get that refinery back open before we can start to see a real measurable drop in the cost of fuel in New Zealand. Yeah,
I have noticed that there is a new, fresh push in the mainstream Tell us a bit more about these calls to reopen the refinery. What's the situation there with who's calling for the opening of the refinery?
So I did see the article which was posted in a number of places by the Maritime Union, sort of making a strong case for restarting the refinery, which was quite interesting and quite heartening. It's the first time they've openly spoken directly to the issue. One thing to note is that we have seen a slight reduction in our cost of fuel. I think it's dropped around between 30 and 40 cents a litre for 91. Which is sort of welcome relief. I think that's largely because of government's reductions on the excise tax, simply because I think they're starting to panic a little bit.
We did bring that up actually a couple of weeks ago. I think Levi mentioned that when that tax is removed, it's still not going to change the real true value. It's just a temporary reprieve of that tax, isn't it? It's temporary, or is it a permanent reduction according to the market?
It's temporary. It's up, until January 2023. But that's puts us a little bit further down the track. A lot can change in the next 6-7 months. So it's hopefully sort of we'll be in a better situation with a potentially better result. I don't know, Levi, do you have information about other transport groups?
It was the. Sorry, my cat's going. I'm sorry, thanks, Dan. It was the Maritime Transport Union and the Rail and Maritime Transport Union. So both together jointly made the call.
Right. Oh.
So they're citing fuel security, and they're pretty upset about the fact that 2 New Zealand tankers have been taken out of service.
Well, it's about time they got their A into G and did something. That's great. Do you think this is going to have any influence on this particular government, considering they're hell bent on committing economic suicide?
I actually find it quite interesting, because generally the unions side with the Labor government, but it appears that they've got a bit of gumption and realised that this government isn't actually serving them either, isn't serving the people that they're supposed to be representing, and they're actually sort of realising that this is a much more significant situation than such that they have actually sort of broken with their tradition and actually sort of gone spoken out clearly with sense. I'm quite heartened by it.
Yeah, and if we have a look at when the pipeline was actually made, Muldoon's era, wasn't it? So they pulled out all the stops, and they basically fast-tracked all this government bureaucracy, and they said, let's get this pipeline built, let's do it, let's throw as many people at it as we can, and the people that were working on the pipeline unionised and actually had a strike against the government, which is a little bit kind of prophetic, isn't it? These things kind of history repeats. So hopefully with these 2 big powerful unions coming in behind the push, let's hope that we can start to see some kind of a crack in the stonewalling that we've been getting to date, and maybe Robinson won't disappear if he has to speak to the unions.
He shouldn't disappear if he's got to speak to the union. Yes, he should at least turn up to a meeting, for sure, absolutely.
I'm starting to see more signs around the place. The protests in Europe that are continuing and expanding, growing. They certainly seem to indicate sort of a firm sort of no. coming from the people, from the farmers in Holland, sort of being of Dutch descent myself. It's really and understand the culture a little bit. It's really heartening to see. And then the Dutch are pretty laid back, pretty easygoing on the whole. But when they say when they sort of say no, then they really say no. They really dig their heels in. We've seen that. And it's resounding across the country, and it's rippled out to surrounding countries. You've got the Germans, you've got the Italians, you've got the Polish, all standing up. And I think we're starting, to see movements now to get people all over the world to stand up and just say no. And sort of starting to see hints that there is actually panic within the political class. Which is good in some respects, but it's not the political class. The politicians that are there are certainly significantly responsible. But what we're not after is to actually destroy everything. And create a situation whereby the UN will say, well, we're the authority, and we're the world leaders, we're the ones that are going to have to stand up and actually take leadership, take control, and actually enforce, this new world order, so to speak. I don't think that's going to fly either. I think that sort of the cracks are really showing in that plan, that they've been rolling out, and with people standing up, we're really into the situation. I think that we are still in a very precarious situation with our fuel supply concerns, which is comes back to the unions now speaking up about it. Rumour has it that there are reports now of that a lot of the Taranaki oil field, oil wells have actually been capped, as well as further reducing supply. Now I'm interested to find out more about that, to know what's actually happening and what is behind that.
Has this been confirmed, or is it a internet rumor at the moment? Do we have any actual confirmation from an official source? What we deem to be official?
No, it's at the moment it's still a rumor.
Yeah.
But we are looking, into it, and we're trying to get some confirmation from somebody down there.
And as rumours go, sort of there is the other the question that everybody's been asking about the refinery itself. Is it being dismantled or not, destroyed, vandalised, whatever term you want to put on it. And to me the evidence still indicates that no, not really. I saw a couple of photos that came out of it that looked like heat exchangers that had been pulled out, but they also looked like they'd been out for quite some time. That wasn't a recent thing. And the photos are all so very, very quite low resolution. Sort of there are things in the background that made me think that possible that they're not actually recent photos either. So there could be photos of part of a plant that's been dismantled for a while, or
There have been lots of situations, lots of examples of photographs from 2 years ago being put out there into circulation again with a new meme attached to it. So this is very common as well. Misinformation.
What really tipped me off about that was, because I'd been talking to somebody in one of the other groups that's sort of been protesting about the shutdown of the refinery, and they've been going around saying pushing this rumour that the refinery is being destroyed as we speak. It's all being torn out and torn down, and it's parts of it are being sold off to China and Texas and whatever, or Pakistan, I think it was, and whatever else. The evidence just doesn't stack up. I can't say for sure that it's not, but I don't see it. And again, it was after I'd actually asked the question that, sort of, well, where's the evidence? There's so many people working on that site. Surely somebody's got a mobile, smartphone with a decent camera on it that would be taking and leaking photos of this. This damage and destruction that's going on, especially if they're particularly upset about it. It's, reportedly, a lot of the operators were.
Yeah, the plant gets completely stripped down and reassembled every 4 years. So, there could be any number of photos out there of that plant in various states of, stripped down or reassembly. So a photo means absolutely nothing. But our information that we have is that the plant is mostly intact and that they're still deciding what they're going to do with it. And I also believe that, there's significant evidence now that Channel Infrastructure is looking to do some type of biofuel in there, so it's not in their best interest to wreck that plant yet. And also you've got all these tax issues with plant and equipment like that, so when you've been writing it down over years, you can't sell it. If you do sell it, you've got to pay tax on it. There's all sorts of reasons why they would just prefer to let it sit there rather than send it to the scrap merchants. I mean, even in scrap, that thing's got to be worth hundreds of millions.
It doesn't seem right to me. You don't attack a country. There I am. You don't attack a country and destroy the infrastructure unless you're planning on tearing, slash and burn style. If you're going to infiltrate a country and control all of its resources, you can pretend that you're tearing it down, but not actually do that. That's kind of like what I'm thinking of here.
Yeah, so, what you do is you send people out to start rumours and, that things been ruined and all the rest of it. And, that would be some kind of subdivision, wouldn't it?
Yeah, much like what happened today. We know it's not related to energy at all, but we know that there was a false alarm of threats going to schools here. Now that my red light goes off there when I see that. When I hear, suddenly schools are being, again, I see the Democrat playbook. Where are they going to start off with? They start off with these we've already had the mass shooting. We're already getting this Democrat playbook where now we've got the Antifa in there. We're really, they're turning it into a mini America with all of their problems, which they're not even related to New Zealand. They're related to the global left and the Democratic Party, which supports most of these people. So I would say a lot of it would be a psychological operation as well.
Yeah, that could have just been a case of, everyone's been talking about it and, some numbnuts couldn't wait till the kids got back to school to dial in a bomb threat, just to go, look, they're doing it, or maybe try to check out to see if this lockdown theory was real. But what I saw was pretty stock standard ever since I was going to school as a kid. I remember bomb threat when I was in intermediate. They got us all out on the field way back from the buildings. So I didn't see anything unusual there that I would be overtly concerned about.
No.
To be honest, yeah.
No, I'm not particularly concerned about it either, personally.
Yeah, and we know that that there is legislation in there that, and it's been there for quite some time, that would allow them to essentially lock down school for, and keep parents away if, and that's based already on the Christchurch. And this whole sort of lockdown practice has been ever since Christchurch mosque shooting. I just don't see them pulling it off successfully anyway, at all.
This segues into a point I often make, and that is that 90%, if not more, of their control over you is psychological.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, if you just say no, And if enough people just say no, I mean, if 10% of this country just said no and 10% has said no, they're outnumbered horrendously. You know, I mean, if they tried to lock all the kids in school and all the parents started come rushing down, the uncles and the aunties start come rushing down, the granddads and the grandmothers start come rushing down, and the neighbours start come rushing down, their stuff, they'd just be rolled in seconds. It'd be all over for them. They haven't got an army big enough to stop parents that are determined to get their kids out of those schools.
Yeah. And I think that sort of the army, sort of have clear protocols, which prevent them from ever being used in any serious, threatening manner towards the people of our own country.
Well, they proved it at Parliament, where the Parliament said, "Oh, help us, send us a big LAV tow truck to get these trucks out," and the army just said, "Sort it out yourself. It's got nothing to do with us."
That's right. It's really got nothing to do with the army at all, or the armed forces. These institutions, the army, the police, the fire station, they're here to serve the nation. They're not here to serve any particular government. The government is an institution itself. They have an obligation to serve the people, not a given particular government or a particular person who thinks that they are now the one and true emperor of the country.
I think that we need to all start applying pressure on these guys, everywhere. I see a point in time coming where they're not going to be able to speak in public without being heckled.
Yes.
It's all going to go closed doors on them. Everything's going to be Zoom, and we're going to be governed by these talking heads on computer screens.
I'm feeling actually very kind of relaxed about it too, because I can see that overall, over the past 6 months, we're starting to see some clarity. We're starting to see a heck of a lot more unity, and more people are actually starting to work together. I think people had to, there's been an entire process to go through when people came up and started the Wellington Convoy, and then down into the Beehive, and then starting Camp Freedom, and then splitting off into splinter groups, and now reforming themselves after getting to know each other and getting to know the reality of what's really happening. And now I can sort of start to see it fruition. That's what I'm seeing. So I think the government is taking note of that. The fact that we're getting more concise, more clear, and more motivated, in fact, and actually working a heck of a lot better together.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the thing. I've been talking across quite a number of groups, and the consolidation, the people that are just wanting to work together. Whether it's sort of looking over the local needs, making sure that sort of in a time of crisis we can look after each other. We can make sure that everybody will have the basics to get by. Through to actually, talking about sort of what we want for the future, how we want to be, how we want our government to work, how we want the process to work, and I think that's exciting. I think that really shows that sort of all these things, the protests in Parliament has played a big part in that, and that we're getting closer to sort of the end game.
Yeah.
In a positive way, an end game where we actually are taking responsibility, for what we want, and for leading solutions.
When we get to that pinnacle event horizon where it's just completely unstoppable and there's no way out, that's when we're going to see like massive changes, and I believe that they're going to happen. I think all the work that everybody's been doing for the past 6 months now, I think is going to pay off. What do you think, Levi?
Well, when I was in the mechanical testing industry, we used to test gas cylinders, compressed gas cylinders, and we used to do hydrostatic testing on them. So what we used to do before because we used to take some of them up to some insane pressures. So we used to do what they called a pre-test. So we used to, take it up to about around about half of its test pressure, and we would measure the expansion of the cylinder and see how much water came back, and that would tell us if it was safe to take the thing up to its full test pressure. So if there was any sort of flaws in it, we would know beforehand. So what I call Parliament is a proof test. It's a proof of concept. We can form a society with order amongst ourselves without chaos ensuing, and that was proved. In Freedom Village, it was what I termed Free New Zealand. It was governed, by one man to another, rather than having these arbitrary policy enforcers telling us what we had to do. So as long as we can replicate that on a nationwide scale, then I think we're going to be okay. Because they are seeking chaos, make no bones about it. Ordo ab chaos, order out of chaos. So they require chaos in order to fulfill their plans, and I don't think they're going to get it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. The whole thing with the kids and all that, trying to, the reality is they're not going to get a Sri Lanka here. End of story. In general, because of the general education level of the country, the size of the country, and I think long term they would really like to do something like this, like have Sri Lanka, and then that goes to the event horizon, completely craps out the entire country. And then, of course, the Hegelian dialect, Balam, here comes in the United Nations to save them, and to International Monetary Fund, we'll loan them more money, and now we've installed all of our stooges, and now you work for us. And so clearly they're not going to be able to get that with the level of education, I guess, in New Zealand.
I think sort of our education system has been misused, abused against us for a long time. But I think it's the nature of the people here. We are a land literally flowing with milk and honey.
Yeah.
We produce enough food for 50 million people, and as I've said in previous shows, the only way that they can bring New Zealand to a point of crisis is if they cut off our fuel supply, at the right time, and completely hobble us, prevent us from being able to actually sow and harvest our crops, whilst I think they've made a good go of that, or created the situation where that could be a serious possibility. At this stage, I think that sort of they've misstepped, and that it's blowing back up in their faces.
Yes, blowback, right?
Yeah,
That's
and
right.
I think too that sort of the blowback is not simply okay, we're going to change the government to the other half of the Hegelian dialect, the other just turn over the coin. I think sort of that the end result is that we're actually going to look at what government is, and how we want to be governed. I think that's exciting, and that's where we can deal with a lot of the pain and trauma that's been going on and festering in New Zealand for a long time.
Closing words, Mr. Levi. You can have the last laugh today. Well, not quite the last laugh, but the last word.
I just want to acknowledge all the 16 different groups that came together for the Global Slow Roll for Freedom. Big shout out to all you guys, and I know Jason's going to put a neat little graphic up there with all the logos on it. And shout out to Richie, convoy leader, for slowing the convoy down just enough to come around the bend at just the right time. What an
Perfect.
awesome week.
Perfect.
What a great way to boost morale.
Yep. Divine intervention is settling into New Zealand. I can see it. I can feel it. That certainly was no coincidence, and I'm not a believer in coincidences anyway. But we're out of time, and you've been on State of the Nation with Levi Wolf and Daniel Rurik. And we'll be back towards the end of the week, actually. We'll do a little bonus round because we missed out last week on the next big thing that's going to hit the country. So take care of yourself, stay out of trouble, and keep fighting for peace. We'll see you next time on State of the Nation. Good night.
With this feeling, I can leave. I'm working